seeing one of the guys that this was actually done at ASAP, the conference in the US about a month ago. And it talks about some of those things, but certs, as you know, especially as you go to 10.2, change quite a bit. So everything prior to 10.2, there was a default cert shipped with the product, and everybody got the same cert. So
it's 10.2.2 that it changed.
Actually 10.2.1.
10.2.1
started, but yeah.
But what about 10.1?
No, 10.1 still had, when you install it, that's where you had to create your own certs.
So when did it change? So
I tell customers anytime they're going to 10.2, just plan that you're going to have to either create your own cert on installation or have your own certificate authority that creates them and then you install them.
but it changed for you, Nige?
Well, I'm going to 10.105, so that to avoid the 10.2 bit, because I want to listen to this, because the 10.2 is really it changes type thing. So I've got a 10.105 and I've got these certificates. I'm not using.
Right.
Oh, so you're running no certificates, not running, you're running non-SSL.
SSL is different, but yeah, the
Yeah, well,
certificate is, I'm not running with like DWC certificates, let's say, yeah.
TLS.
It's unsecure.
Unsecure, yeah.
It's not padlocked.
Everything is HTTP. You're not right?
No, he's using a self-signed certificate.
Oh, you're saying self-signed certificate. Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay. So anyhow, where most of the customers are running into troubles as they go to 10.2. Because of 10.2, you either have to create your own certificate or you have to generate your own CA certificates and then insert it. That's where most of our customers are running into issues is where do you start? Prior to that, there's a standard certificate shipped with the product. It got installed, passed all the agents. That changed. That's where CertMan got developed, and it's in here. We can talk a little bit about it. Like I said, the CertMan didn't get actually isn't in the product until 10.2.3. So most times when we recommend customers looking at it, they're going at least to 10.2.3 or greater when they're trying to upgrade. They just bypass 10.2, 10.1, 2.2. So that's where I'm just giving you recommendations of what we're seeing with all the upgrades we're helping customers that our services teams are doing. Okay, if you're doing yourself, so recommendation at least to start with 10.2.3. Now, Nigel, I'm just talking. Actually, I have some consultants that say if you're going to do anything with certs, make sure you're on 10.1.5 first, and then upgrade, because 10.1.5 kind of sets the, I guess, directories and things up that's ready, so it's easier to upgrade to 10.2x. So anyhow, this is both refresh and upgrades. Any questions before we go?
Will we be getting these slides?
Yeah, I can give them all to you. Actually, I have a couple of different ones. Some documents that I'll show the links. There's been quite a bit of documentation written, but it's not in the documents. They're either white papers or links or information like that, and I have all that. I'll share and get it out to everybody. This has been an issue with everybody, so I don't want you guys to feel that it's only you. Certificates has been an issue with every customer out there that's going for an upgrade. So the current CertMan, and I believe, and you can tell me, I thought it's being added. Well, it generate it, it'll extract, it'll verify, import, delete, and they're actually adding a feature to let it replace. It doesn't replace certificates today. So that's being added into the tool. CertMan, it's part of the tool when you get to it. And the generate command then does all these, the CRT, the key, TLS files, and it creates all this and puts them into folders. Now we'll tell you where all the folders are. So, and it puts them in a PEM format. If you're gonna use your own, or if you're gonna create through this. It'll create both the certificate authorities and your certs for it. The cert man will. So it does quite a bit. It's actually helped quite a bit. This tool does quite a bit. Like I said, it doesn't ship until 10.2.3. So if you're going to do any 10.2, we recommend at least starting at 10.2.3. Because then you get the cert man tool and all the features that it helps generate and manage the certs for you within the product. The extract command will, like I said, extract certificates out of from your key store from an existing IWA environment. So if you already have certificates in a key store, it will extract them out. Okay. So the tool does quite a bit. The verify will verify it. You know, that it's in a PIM format, that are not expired, all those kind of things. The version just checks the version of the product. You know, but these are the basic commands that come with CertMan. Import, this is the big one. So this is where you can add to your chain, you can add keys, you can add a certificate to the key store. And it's all command line, so it's a command line tool.
But in terms of where you need certificates.
Yeah, that's coming in a minute. Yeah. This is just the basic CertMan, what it provides for you today.
Yeah.
And then to delete, we'll remove any certificates, you know, because your key store could get used, your folder certificates, you want to delete them out. Right. And that's it. So this is kind of getting in. That's just what the CertMan tool provides for you today. Like I said, they're already in a new feature. I believe it's called just replace. So you can replace existing certs. But that won't be out till 10.2.5, 10, I think, something like that. Yeah. So let's start at the very basics. How to replace your default certs. So you can there's two methods that are really recommended: rip and replace or cap and grow. And we'll go through each of those. All right. And this is really on the MDM and DWC, because once you get to the MDM, you should be able to pass those certificates down to your agents. And we can talk about that, especially if rip and replace or cap and grow, because it applies to your agents slightly differently. This is how to replace the default certs on your MDM and your DWC. So this is going through just what you have to do before you start using CertMan. All right, if you want to do any of this. So make things easier, you know, you connect, the certs can be used on all the components. You want to make sure you back up those things just in case. There's directories right here before you do anything. And then we can import new certs into the key stores and trust stores. And I'll show you the directories where those things are within it. And the MDM key store, I think, is supported because you should have both the default and the new ones. So there will be a default one that's generated on install. So this goes back to some of the recommendations are to start with 10.1.5 because it'll generate default certificates and then upgrade. You'll have both the default ones and the new ones in there. And of course, there's these things about it. The broker, of course, has its own CNs. You may have to add these in the properties file. And there's some information in the SSL config if you're doing it in the overrides directory. And of course, you'll have to restart Liberty when you're all done. And this is more. Like I said, there's multiple places and I have that at the end of this where your certificates are stored. And of course, always back them back up and copy them. Update the broker's workstation properties, an update to the SSL variables, XML that you may have to do, and you got to restart this again if you're using new certs. I think that's it on the last one, didn't it? Yeah. Yeah, because this is the backup DDMs and everything. If you're using DDMs or the backup master, so step for everything. So it's quite a few steps for each component you'll have to go through. They'll be basically the same, but just making sure everything you have to do there. Oops. So the bad thing is previously to tend to the certificates were we're in a different format. So they do get converted to a PIM format and renamed. And these are certificate names, or at least the signer and things that are in there. So these are appended to your default certificates and others within the new ca.crt. There's statements in here about begin and end. If you ever looked at one of these files, I'm sure someone has, but you have to have this kind of information in it. And this is kind of a default file, what it looks like. So the beginning certificate, another certificate, and then there's the end of it. So that's what the file will look like if you're editing it. Yeah, go ahead.
So if you go back to the previous slide, around creating the SSL depot.
What are you looking for?
That's for agents, yes?
Yeah,
So
this is for agents.
if you're using SSL,
Each one of these this is the MDM and DWC, the backup master and DDMs.
Yeah.
And then this is the agents.
so if you're using SSL between your master and your agents, you can use the depot. And does the agent automatically search the depot when it starts up? Or
So
do you
the
have to enable
the agent will get the latest certificates. Is that what you're asking? Yes.
But does the agent look at the master by default, or do you have to change the configuration to say go and get it from the depot?
Oh, I'm not sure. Yeah, I can. I believe it does on startup, but on the agent startup. No, it does. We got to verify. Yeah. There's actually quite a few. Like I said, there'll be I'll show you some other stuff. Here's another certificate bundle. If you have multiple certificates at begin and end, there'll be another begin certificate in your file with the next certificate. So you can have multiple in there. Right here. So you can manually down certs and import them if you want to. You can use the agent certified downloader to download certificates, or you can use the JWT to add them. So options 2 and 3 are really a rip and replace approach. All right, so these two kind of this is all coming from what we've practiced with upgrading customers.
But I can answer.
Yeah.
Right now, no. The agent will not ask automatically to the master, but you need to download the agent certificate download. Yeah. And exactly. But we have been planned to this auto discovery from the MDM.
Yeah.
But for now, no.
I think the containerized version uses ACD by default.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Sorry, this is Alessandro. Yes, because now the only way to change the certificate is to run the certman to, for example, create, import. After you have to run manually on every agent, the agent download certificate. Only one case, for example, when the certificates are expiring, the broker send the notification to the agent that the old certificate is expired. So all in this way, automatically the agent can download the new certificate. Otherwise, it's not possible for now. For example, I think in this version, we adding in the DWC the possibility to see the expiration date for every workstation. I think in 10.6, we try to implement this way to that the agent understand that the certificate on the master is changed, so in some way can download automatically this certificate. Because now the handshake between the agent is like not one way, but he need the private key, new private key of the master. If he doesn't have, we never connected to the master. So for now, the only way it's using the agent certificate download.
Makes sense?
The certificates aren't easy, are they, Nige?
Oh no, God no. I think you got to learn how what certificate is, the basics. Instead of going straight into this, you need to plan yourself to learn about what certificate is, what different prefixes. Looking at what OpenSSL is, what CertMan is, and what the other kind of brands are out there functional. And obviously CertMan.
Yeah, these are the basic
You need
steps.
to get the concept in your head to do the concept.
I'll show you at the end, there's been a couple of different white papers or publications out there that are available to download and get them. I'll show you where they're at. And then this is just the basic steps for each one of these different components that you would have to go through to do. Okay. Like I said,
Why are we doing this? Why are we actually putting a certificate? Why did IBM?
why is all this happening?
To do this?
Because prior to 10.2, every customer got default certs, the same certs.
Yes.
So you can go from customer A to customer B with the same cert.
Yes.
And plug in. And so we had to be fixed. There's a security hole, possible security hole. So because the product shipped with default certs, and if you download it from IBM.com, everybody got the same certificates.
You do bottom up or top down. So if you change your certificate for your master, will that not ever talk to any of the FTAs? If you've got 100 FTAs and you didn't change the FTAs.
Oh yeah, don't ever talk.
So you've got, what chicken and egg? So do you do the FTAs first, then the master, or the master?
Well, that was
do it
part
all
of,
one day?
that was part of the, yeah, so, two basic options, three basic options. You manually down the certs, import them to each of your DAs or your FTAs, or you can do these two here, two different, so three ways to do it. And that's where you got to decide what works best in your environment. How do you want to approach this? And that's, I think, what he was just saying with the ACD. Does ACD work with just Dynamics or FTAs? It works with just Dynamics, it doesn't affect the FTAs.
Yeah, Dynamics.
Yeah. So with FTAs, if they're only an FTA, you'll probably have to manually import them to your key stores.
Now, yes, because we have to add a little part, because if you install only FTA, is missing about the JavaX extension that we use to run the DK tool to import through CertMan the certificate. For this version, 10.4 is not possible to download from the FTA. For the next, yes. For the dynamic agent, I was suggest before, it's okay with methods. We can run manually or with the agent certificate download. Yes.
So this is assuming you have an FTA, DA on the same box. You know, some users only have an FTA.
Yes. Also, sorry, because in the past, usually the FTA is talking with the master, with not OpenSSL or SSL. Only the dynamic agent, because by default installed the GS kit. So in this way can talk through FIPS mode, and only the dynamic agent talks in encrypted way. In general, the past FTA will never use the OpenSSL. After in 10.1, I think we added this feature with the new keywords enable force. So you can choose if you want to use OpenSSL or not. In this way, the FTA uses OpenSSL.
Yeah, and this one talks a bit more about both DMs and FTAs. But it's a manual process at the moment, so.
Yeah, it's a lot of manual work, isn't it?
Yes.
Did examples to automate that?
What was
To
that?
automate the process. So
Yeah, that's what he was talking about. They're
Yeah.
working on that.
so
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess we could do that outside of IWA though. Or have like, we could use other tooling. It's just.
Oh, yeah, you could use other tools. Yes, yeah.
So you could do that.
But we're trying to build it into CertMan and give you the options within the tool to do it itself. Right. You could, if you had other tools, you could do it. Yes.
If you install the agent in bot way, you have a bot agent FTA, there is no problem because there is the JavaX and the agent certificate downloaders. In this way, the FTA it's okay because run through the agent to download everything. Because now are stored in the same path. Before it was two different certificates, they kept DB for the agent, dynamic agent, and then OpenSSL certificate for the FTA. Now are all the same certificate in the same place.
Yeah.
So
Did
there
you
is no
say what-
difference.
Sorry, what's the timeline between this manual process to when you expect an automated process?
Is that going to be in 10.2.5 or 10.2.6? Do you think?
6, I suppose 6, because there are some
6.
problem to find the right way to notify and try to find the right way to download the new certificate, because I showed before we had to take the CA, the right key, and to import after we work. But there is a little, yes.
Yeah,
We need,
so it'll be in a year. At minimum.
It depends on what point you do the upgrade to when does it become a problem?
When it becomes automatic.
Yeah.
So this is a few more things, just word directory. So this is actually a good white paper was written. I'll bring it up. One of our senior consultants. And this is some of the directories. So TSL, SSL, Open SSL. That's where the certs are stored for the FTAs. That's where the certs are stored for the DWC and MDM. And then, of course, you use the overrides directory for variables, key stored, things like that. And there's just directories here based on what your primary directory is. But these are the subdirectories. Like Alessandro just said, they're trying to move everything into the same directory, so you don't have, the FTAs and DAs had different places. It was, I mean, who developed it over the years, so they're trying to fix all that as they go through. But this is actually a pretty good white paper. I'll bring it up in a minute. These actually are two more links that are part of it too. So let me just show you those. Is it here? So this is the workload. Anybody ever go to the Workload Automation community page? It's one of the places that gets updated. Like I said, there's multiple places that things get, and there's a link off of it. Coexistence of default and custom certificates. And this is a great white paper that Sajad wrote. He's one of our senior consultants, and it's published out there. This is fairly recent, like I said, February this year. You can download it and use it, but it goes through quite a bit of information about how to update, where directories are. I think a lot of information that what the different extensions all are. So you have all that spelled out in the product. But I'll make sure you have access to this. It's like I said, it's public information. Another place that's out there is this one. This is another one. This is actually a tech paper that was written, how to change IBM's component key store passwords, and it has steps through the whole thing. So there's a lot of information out there. It's just in multiple places. And I'm sorry, that's just what happens. And it's finding it. That's the biggest issue. So these are two links that come off the presentation we can share. I do have another presentation that was done a year ago. It's a little bit different, but this one is actually steps to, oops, this is the right one. You make sure. Yeah, this one talks a little bit more about just certificate authority within the product, different keys, terminology. Again, I think there's a question about what all these different things mean. PKI implementation and IWI and IWA. So both these you have a lot of information. If you've never seen them, it's a great place to start because it does give you some of the directories. And of course, you'll see TWS, I think, and this was a year ago. I believe some of this has been updated now as far as naming, but I still want to share it with you so you have them because it's a lot of good information about the product underneath. What's happening with the CAs, the key stores. Replace the default right now.
I think Mark has a question. Go ahead, Mark.
Oh, hi. So the slides that you were showing just before, I think
Yep.
it was slide 13. Would you mind just bringing that up, please?
Sure. This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I think I'm in the same boat as a lot of people in that this is all new and you want to get it correct. But the various white papers that you've shared and the documentation as well, trying to condense that into usable information, I've struggled with. So the particular wording that's used here, for example, all certificates must be issued to a specific server, not a wildcard. So that makes sense. So if you imagine you've got a master, a backup master, and 2 DWCs, what I'm looking for is that the bullet point further down to make things easy and economical. The MDM cert can be used on the rest of the components. Now, what am I right in saying? If you have a trust store and a key store on the master that contains external CA signed certificates, so they're signed, you've got your intermediates, and then you have a certificate that is the certificate for the master, and it has the subject alternate names of the backup master and the DWCs. From reading the documentation, it's possible to use this key store and trust store from the master on the backup master and the DWCs. Is that a correct assumption? Because from what I've read in these slides, that can be done.
I understand. Yes.
Okay.
Yes to your question. Yeah.
So in the testing that I've done for 10.2.2, it all works. So that if that premise is correct and we've shipped the trust store and key store to the backup and the DWC, everything works. So the padlock exists on the DWCs. That's fine. The padlock exists when you're using the Swagger interface to the master. So the API is trusted as well, which is what you want. The dynamic agents are talking to the broker correctly. Everything's great. The only thing that doesn't work is in the 10.2.2 DWCs, the button for creating an API key disappears. It's gone. So you can't create new API keys. You can't use the OCLI. And that's why I'm glad that I can ask this question now, just to get confirmation that with all this documentation flying around, that is a way of working. So I wanted to get to a position where I could raise this as a case. Does that sound reasonable?
I think you could open a case. I don't know why it.
Exactly. I thought it was on the home straight and it was all working, and then that button vanished, and it's like, oh, okay.
So the button on the DW where is that button? That button's on the.
It's in the top right when you create API. So you want to create an API key to use as the server's account or a personal account. That button vanishes, and I couldn't find any logical reason why that would be, except I've been doing it wrong. And for I understand that might not be the case.
Probably, sorry, if I understand right, you updated the trust store on the bot component. After, when you try to create an API key from the DWC, it's not valid, right?
The button doesn't appear at all. So everything else works.
Probably, yeah, it could be a defect because probably when we create this API key, it's created in the wrong way with the, not the old CA, but probably missing a part. Because we see something similar in the Kubernetes environment that run the Docker. Probably it's this is the reason. I write on my notes and I ask so also I try testing my environment to add the trust store and try to generate a new API key and see if it works.
Yeah, that would be great. Just for my own benefit, and if that's the case, fantastic, because what we're shooting for, and I think every other customer is, if we're going to have to rotate certificates across the key infrastructure, the master and the DWCs, what is the safest and shortest route to get to that? And if it means we only rotate them on the master and then push those new key stores and trust stores to the backup and DWC, that's far easier to manage. I think that's what I'd like to get to, because if we're going to be rotating the certificates every 4 months, 12 months, the procedure has to be dead on. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Okay.
What you can do, Mark, though, is you can take CertMan from 10.2.3,
Yeah,
take the binary across to
yeah.
10.2, and it will work.
So when you say it'll work, so it depends what you're trying to do. So CertMan is great in some aspects, but when it's talking, I think it was on the earlier slide about doing an import of the CA, CertMan create, you have the documentation around the format of the CA and the files that it's being imported is very vague. There's only what I've spent a lot of time trying to get that CertMan import and create to work correctly with the CA and the intermediate certificates that I've got, and I gave up. There might be a prescribed way that it should be, the format, whether it's PEM, whether it's CERT, whether it's what have you, but the validation that it uses when it's importing files is not great. It doesn't tell you what's wrong, it just says it doesn't work. And again, I'm happy to share that with whomever, because everyone's going to be in the same boat if we're trying to do this. There's a variety of different CAs out there, if they're having intermediates or not, etc., and how the certificate is going to be delivered to you. So the many permutations, I would think the validation that CertMan uses for its input files needs to be improved, I would say.
No, as far as an error is what you're saying.
Yes. So maybe in the lab or when it was developed, they were using one particular CA and one format of it. So in our case, we've got 3 different CAs with 3 sets of intermediate certificates, and the certificate will be a cert file, a PEM file. We don't know what we're going to get, and that's just the nature of PKI and SSL. That's, we can't predict that. But the CertMan does not seem to validate correctly unless it's looking for a particular format, and unless you get that input format correct, it just spits out error after error. That's what I found in my testing.
Correct.
Yeah,
Sorry, only one thing, because in 10.4 we added the 2 functionality. That's its validate and the generation, because we know that it's not easy to create this certificate, try to import. So now there are 4 functions that let me check on my environment so I can.
We're fine. Yeah.
So I haven't done 10.2.4, so this could be the answer to what I was looking for. I've only gone as far as 10.2.3.
Because let me chat I run now CertMan on my environment. You can see in the chat that now there is generate, extract, import, and verify.
Okay.
I think this could be helpful to try to start with this new part of the certificate. I know that it's not easy. I understand.
Yeah, Mark, and I can also the gentleman who wrote this and the white paper, Sajad, we can always, if you have an email you want to send it, we can. He's got quite a bit of experience with it. He can also help you, maybe give you input.
Yeah, because those white papers were great. It's just there's so much information to try and ingest, and as was just said a minute ago, if you're not super up to speed with JKS, P12, etc., it makes that more difficult. So yeah, that's great about the verify. I'll go and have a look at that. Thank you.
Okay. Like I said, I have a lot of documentation. If you haven't done any of this, read through it. I'll be honest, it's the biggest issue most of our customers we're going through are dealing with. It's just they're not used to, most of them, and you guys have a lot bigger staffs than the average customer, and they just don't understand certs. And that's the whole reason for CertMan, is to try to make it easier to help them manage. And also the structure of the directories has been, like Alessandro said, it's been improved so that the same directory names, same places, same locations are on all components. They weren't there before. So trying to get all that in line. But this has been one of the biggest issues with the product upgrades. So, and like Nigel and I were talking earlier, said, I've actually had consultants say, start with 10.1.5 and then upgrade to 10.2x or something, because certain things and there that just help it as far as certs much easier. Not have to hear one of the guys on the line to explain why, because I don't get involved in those that often. Is there any more questions about it? I mean, I know it's a very complex process. As everybody said, we're trying to make it easier.
If you go to version 9 FTA, because you can't upgrade it to version 10 or 10.2 due to maybe it's the operating system.
Right. Yeah, the operating system, the app. Yep.
That kind of thing, yeah. It's not certified that. Does certificates work on the previous versions of iOS 9?
Yeah, they'll be in different locations. They'll be in the older locations, which I'm not sure it's documented here. Let me see.
If you perform an upgrade directly on OFTA or agent for also old version, it's automatically converted from JKIS to current format and put in the dedicated part of the system. So for the direct upgrade, there is no problem. For the customer, there is no problem, because it's automatically find and converted for the direct upgrade. Different if you want, for example, install a backup master 10.24 that point an old environment like 9.5. You have to run the extract command on the old version 9.5. In this way, we'll create the right certificate in the right format, and you have to take and put on the backup master to pass for the new installation. This is the only part that is not so easy. Direct upgrade, there is no problem.
Right. But if you're running, like Nigel just said, if they have to keep a 9.5 agent, they're going to have to manually update the certificates. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and they'll be.
So otherwise, if you want to install a dynamic agent, also FTA, you have 3 ways to install. You can pass the certificate through a folder. You can pass the what user and what password of the master, so automatically we download the certificate, or you can pass the GWT or API key. Also, in this way, the dynamic agent can download automatically this new certificate from the master. So if you want to install 10.4 agent, you have 2 ways to install. The more easy it's pass the user password of the master. If you want pass,
we're losing you.
Ale,
sorry.
Ale.
Tell me.
We're losing you. You disappeared.
Ah,
Ale.
sorry. Now?
No.
No?
You press something. Lost your mic.
Are you hear me?
Can someone else that is in the call please say something, just to understand if the problem is from Alessandro's side or here?
We could hear Alessandro.
I can hear Alessandro.
Ale, just 1 second.
Yes.
Is here the problem?
Yeah, you just turned it up.
Yeah, you turned it up.
Oh, yeah, maximum.
Tell me when you hear me.
Try talking again.
Yes? Better?
Marco, I suggest you to call the magic number there.
The magic number?
Yeah, magic number. The guys who provided us his number.
Okay, so just to recap what you said, the 9.5 will still work. It's just they'll have to update the certificates manually or through the process, which I didn't catch the process. I'll see if we can get it written down for you. Document it. So, good. So I take it.
Feels like a huge amount of work.
Yeah, it sounds.
And how often will we have to refresh those certificates?
Well, and that was today. This should last 3 years. I would by default, I think. So it's up to you.
Well, it depends on the certificate. So
Yeah. There's nothing in our product that's gonna end it for you. So it's gonna be up to yours. There was the discussion earlier about, the whole thing that certificates are moving to a shorter life cycle, but I don't know how that would. It shouldn't affect IWA internally, but that's a whole nother discussion.
The agent download a certificate script or whatever it is.
Huh?
So say you've got a dynamic agent already working with certificates and
Yeah.
you get a new certificate, does that push them down to that agent for you from the master?
This
Yeah.
piece here?
yeah, if it's in the depot, yeah.
Right.
It's in the depot here.
And can you put multiple different certificates into that depot?
You can try.
Yeah, I don't know how that'd be managed. Alessandro, do you know?
That's a difficult one.
For now, I don't try so much certificate.
Yeah.
One for now.
How do you know which certificate's being used? Multiple certificates.
We have a certificate per agent.
You get multiple certificates in the same. How do you know which one's actually in use?
Well, I don't know. That's why.
Well, you can have multiple certificates defined. You can have multiple certificates defined in there.
No, not within the actual file. What we're saying is if you have 2 or 3 files within a directory, which one would it be using? That's the company. How would you know which one it would use?
I don't have to answer that. Let me see if, no, he's not online.
It'll be in the key store, won't it? So when the agent talks to the master, it'll say, I'd like to have an SSL connection to you. The master then comes back and says, here's the certificate. The agent then looks in its key store to make sure that it's valid, that it knows about it. If it's not, then it will reject the connection. So if you've got lots of certificates loaded into your key store, all it'll do is it'll work, but may slow things down as it checks through.
Trying to check through all the certs, different keys.
Does it do this every job or initially the first time?
It's every
for the
connection.
master?
Every
isn't it?
connection.
Yeah, so this is the final plan, it basically drops connections and restarts everything again. Does at that point still check the system and then at that point communicate? So you've got FTA, you've got master manager, you just run your plan. Yeah, obviously it's all gone on linked, everything's gone on linked again. So does at that point also check the validity of your certificates?
But it's at a connection level. So if there are no communications going on, it'll time out and reestablish the connection next time.
Yeah,
it's
but the FTA is a persistent connection, so
Yeah.
I don't know I don't know when it checks. I'd have to find out for you. So you're asking, does it check every job? No, but I don't know when it updates that connection.
But there'll still be an SSL timeout.
Yeah, okay, so you're saying that the SL timeout reconnects? I have to find out for you. I don't know.
We're going to do it on dynamic agent.
If I understand better about the communication between
Yes.
the agent and the broker, the agent,
Yeah.
when speak with the broker, send our public key. The server will trust this. After, the agent will decrypt this communication with the private key of the server. This is the first handshake. After this, I think that they use a different key to continue the communication. So I would say before they need the public and the private key to establish the communication.
Okay, that's of a dynamic agent. What about an FTA?
I think it could be the same because the handshake is about OpenSSL. I think it could be the same, but I can try to ask
Yeah, don't know.
about this. Now I ask to my colleague if he answer. I tell you.
Okay.
Please, go ahead. Yes.
Like I said, this lays down all the steps you have to go through each agent today. White papers are pretty good. If there's any particular questions, my best option is to send it to me or Nolan, and I can ask one of our consultants who's been through this many more times, other customers, see what they've done, how they, it really depends. Everybody's doing certificates differently, but this is the basic structure for, IWS. We're trying to make it easier. So,
If I upgraded, so again, I'm hogging the room.
Yeah.
If I upgraded for 10.105 and I got a 10, let's go 10.204, doesn't matter. At that point when I upgrade, it will still be using the default certificate
that are in your 10.1.5.
all the 10.204 to say, you can't use the default certificate anymore. You have to.
No, it won't tell you that.
So,
But-
yeah, so 10.2, I can go 10.204 using the exact same certificates I'm using today, and it will not fail. This is the ability
That's two
to
different
change.
questions.
I know.
Well, you can install, you're saying is I have a 10.1.5, I upgrade to 10.2.4 and don't change my certificates
Yeah.
until after I've installed.
It's that
Oh,
master.
correct.
All the updates collect.
What was
Correct.
that?
You can, yes, correct. Because you can continue use the default. When you want, you can update. Because
can update.
in automatically way it's converted and continue use the same default certificate for every kind of DWC agent, and everything continues to work. There is no problem.
I thought at 10.2.
Well, only if you want to
Yeah.
update it to be unique. In this case, you are continuing to the default. It's only if you say the problem, but it's not a real problem.
If you upgrade a current server, it should work fine. Where customers run into trouble is they're doing a parallel install and they install 10.2.4, say separate, and it doesn't have the certs from then that's where customers run into trouble because they have two different environments in a sense. If the 10.1.5 with its default keys, and then when they install 10.2.4, it creates new keys, things like that. But if you're doing an in-place upgrade, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, direct upgrade, yeah.
And the other thing that Nigel reminded to bring everybody up is everybody knows with 10.1 that the Symphony file gets encrypted. That's a big, so once you go to 10.1 in your Symphony files, if you encrypt it, you can turn that off when you do the install, but it's by default, it encrypts it. You can't go backwards. Can't fail back over to a 9.5 or 9.4 or, whatever your backup master is. So you need to plan that out too, what you're going to do. But you can turn the encryption off. Alexander, once you've turned it off, can you encrypt the Symphony file later?
Yes, you can. Because you have to modify the local OPTS file. You can add the password that you want to start and automatically it's encrypted. Also the queue. Also, you can choose if you want to encrypt both or only the Symphony. You can choose.
That's another gotcha that customers have run into.
Yeah, it's a major difference, a major error within a bug as a bug. Where if you do an upgrade,
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't load up the SSL AES files. But if you do a fresh install at 10.1, it then installs them. So there's a massive behavior difference between an upgrade and a fresh install. And that can catch a lot of people out, like it did to me.
There's a lot of little,
Yeah, it's not little, because this will actually.
Well, I know. A lot of little things out there can get you.
But this will kill your plan.
Mhm.
And you have to do a reset on your plan to get out of it. That's how bad it is. To get out of it. Be careful.
Just got a plan.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of, simple things like that. We've had customers that are on back rib still 9.4. You have to, if you're trying to upgrade to 9.5.4 or greater, there's other things you gotta take. I mean, there's a lot. So.
Okay, you done?
Yeah. Is there anything else we want to talk about this? I'll make sure you'll tell me where to put all this stuff.
You pass it to me.
I'll send it all to you.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. So you'll have all these different presentations, the white papers. Like I said, it's a lot, as Mark said, it's a lot of information. But we're trying to get it all down, so at least you have it there in front of you.
Can I just ask the group then, do you think it'd be helpful if we had a call in the future that was just about certificates and people can just bring questions to it?
I think it'd be useful.
Or
Just share our
gotchas or
experience,
suggestions
I think it
or
would share our experiences. Some people may have done it, and
yeah.
just to go through some pain points or what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we set something up, I could get one of the guys on the at least our consultant team that, you know, has a lot of experience, can answer your questions for you. Sajad or somebody.
I think on that point, what I had a problem with in some of the documentation tries to cover all versions so far. So from 9.5 to 10.1, 10.2 and 10.3. And the procedures and the documentation change, for example, between 10.2 and 10.3. In 10.3, it says you have to have separate files, whereas in the 10.3 documentation says, you know, you can combine the files. If you don't know what it's telling you, it's difficult to understand. So maybe if you were going to plan a separate call, you could say, well, if you're on 9.5 and you wanted to go to 10.2.2, here's what you would do. If you go to 10.2.4, here's what you could do, because these steps are not exactly the same if you read the documentation.
Okay.
Okay.
Another place, just so it's out there, if you know, let me find it. Oh, where to go? IBM. So like I said, there's multiple data places. That's the big problem. IBM internally has its own. I don't know if everybody goes to the Tech Exchange website page if you're part of this group. But there's a lot of write-ups here that people put in. So different things on documentation that may help too, outside of the normal documentation. So like I said, there's a lot of information, but it's spread all over. So if you're not familiar with this website within the IBM channel, so the community page, you know, I'll put that link in there also.
And there's also the ASAP.
Yeah, there's the ASAP web page. There's
stuff on
yeah,
ASAP as
but
well.
that's hard to get to if you've never been to a conference because they don't let you in.
No, I think it's on the public side.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
So lots of different places.
Yeah, there's been a bit of a revamp of this Tech Exchange sort of site. So so I'll try and put some, because you know this is down as the AIOps sort of like user group through for historic sort of purposes. So I'll start adding stuff onto there that's links out to all of these places as well as the recordings. I'll load here as well.